Hey, how are you guys today? I hope you're excited for art and I hope you got a chance to take a look at the PowerPoint that we did. And we're kind of talking a little bit about the art movement called realism. And if you remember when we talked about Baroque, it has to do with that light source coming in. It has to do with a feeling of movement and drama and action. But realism is a little bit more kind of photographic. And today what we're talking a little bit about is how we can take ordinary objects, everyday objects, and make them beautiful. And so the things that we're going to need today for what we're doing, we're a little bit Texas inspired because I know you guys are learning about the Alamo and the Mexican War for Independence. So you're going to need a plain paper bag. You're going to need some crayons, and I really just took my oldest and grubbiest crayons that I had to show how we can take plain, ordinary things and make them into something beautiful. Then if you have the stencils that I printed out, or if you have a cookie cutter of a star, Texas is the Lone Star State, so a star is a great kind of thing. And then when you're all done, you're going to need a candle, and maybe a jar or something to put it in. It can be a junky old candle because it's going to be hidden. The other thing we're going to need is either some wax paper or parchment paper and an iron. So again, just junky everyday things to make something that's going to be beautiful and look great on your dinner table. So let's get started. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to take my my template for my cowboy boots, and I'm going to draw that on one side of my paper bag. Just use that to trace it and get a nice boot shape. If you don't have a printer or you forgot to print out the template, you can either draw your boot freehand, or you can go ahead and do what I did on the other side, which was use a star pattern. Again, Texas is the Lone Star State. So what I'm going to do is I took one and did it this way. I'm going to flip it this way so you can see it. And then I'm going to do a little overlap here so I get more design and more color. But remember how we've talked about how that overlapping gives a little bit of dimension. So I think that's going to look really nice. So this is going to be a pair of boots. You could, if you wanted, make them so that they're both the same. You could use a combination of templates like that. Let me show you. You could use a combination of templates, or you could decide that you're going to just do two boots that are facing the same direction. But this is the way I wanted to do it. And I'm going to just go ahead and take that little bit of an eraser and erase this because that one is the one I want to be the top one. All right, so now hopefully you saw on your PowerPoint some fun ideas for cowboy boots. It is amazing how boots that are meant to just really protect your feet have turned into fabulous works of art. So I'm going to take my purple crayon and I'm going to kind of work with complementary colors here, I think. And if you wanted to make them a little more realistic, you could use some brown with red, but I'm going to be thinking about what kind of colors are going to look nice showing through. So I'm going to go with some purple and yellow complementary colors here. Just kind of fun. I'm going to do a yellow star on that boot. And you want to color really, really hard, okay? Because you're going to want a lot of wax there. When we use the iron, that wax is going to melt and it's going to look really pretty. Now you could take those two boots and make them with a different pattern or a different style. I'm going to just keep mine as if they're a pair of boots just turned right next to each other. And there we go. If you got a chance to watch the PowerPoint, you saw the painting by Vermeer called The Milkmaid. That is actually one of my all-time favorite paintings. And again, if you saw that, you saw Crack the Whip, the Snap the Whip painting. That's by Homer Winslow. That's actually in an art museum in Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio. Not a big art museum, not a big city, but is a very famous painting. And it is actually one of Kate's favorite paintings and one of my son Matt's favorite paintings. So really fun. It almost looks photographic when you take a look at it. One of the ideas we want to think about as we are considering this movement of art called realism, it's really a reflection of a Latin phrase that we have called imago Dei. And I know you guys have heard me say that phrase before, but that imago is image, and imago Deo means image of God, because it's actually imago Dei. Those are the right endings for our declensions. But when we think about imago Dei, it's the idea that man is made in the image of God. And we think of all the beautiful things, flowers and giraffes and butterflies and just really cool cactuses and fabulous trees. We know that there is a lot of beauty out in the world that God created. But there is only one creation that is created in his image, and that is man, and we are the imago Deo. And so that idea, along with the Reformation, really inspired the realism movement in art, because it gives us the idea that because we're created in the image of God, that there's beauty in everyday people, not just kings, not just saints, not just Bible characters. We saw a lot of Greek mythological characters and Bible characters who were in Baroque art. But really, the idea is that man himself is made in the image of God, and we are considered the crown of his creation. And so that really inspired the realistic art movement, where just ordinary men and women, hopefully you like that painting of the laundress. Did you notice those red shoes she had? Here she is, a lowly woman who her only job is to do laundry, and the artist put a pair of really pretty red shoes in there for her. So that's kind of a neat thing. So I'm continuing to color here really, really dark. And I'm going to show you here just a second. See that purple and yellow? Again, choosing some complementary colors. Purple and yellow is one of my favorite ones, as is the blue and orange. I have to be honest, the red and green is not my favorite, just because it reminds me of Christmas whenever I do that. So I'm coloring really hard, and hopefully one of my videographers is going to come and turn me off for a minute until I get the rest of this finished, so you can see the next steps. Alrighty. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished coloring. And one of the things I decided to do was go ahead and use the white crayon. I'm just going to add a little more to make it nice and thick and dark. Keep in mind that this is going to look a little bit different once it has been ironed and the wax is melted. It's going to blend a little bit, and any unevenness is kind of going to go away. So I'm just finishing up adding a little bit of white here to this. And then you have a couple of options. If you want, you can take and sprinkle some crayon shavings around the outside of your design just to get some more color around the edges. I'm actually going to go ahead and take my yellow crayon, and I'm just going to add a little bit more color here, just with some fun little lines. I think you can see that I'm doing that right here. One of the things I love about this project is I've been trying to find things for you guys that don't require any special artist supplies, because we all know it's super fun to go to Michael's or Joann Fabrics or AC Moore and buy a lot of really special things, but we forget about the magic of crayons. And honestly, I do not like crayons. However, I've found so many fun projects for you guys over the last couple of weeks using crayons. I'm really happy about that. And it's inspired a love for me for crayons. And honestly, if I'm going to use crayons, I want perfect new crayons out of a box. But you can see I specifically chose old and junky crayons to show you that we can take things that are kind of thrown away things and make them into something beautiful. And obviously we know that's what God does with us. It takes some things that are not so pretty and make them into beautiful things. So this is a way that we can really add to the beauty. And this is a project that is pretty easy and fun, but it's a little bit unusual. And so I think it's going to give you an opportunity to make some of these maybe for your grandma or for a neighbor, because when it's all finished and you see the candles inside, I know that you're going to love them. And these days it's hard to be able to serve and bless others because we can't be with them. So we have to be like God and be really creative to think of ways to be a blessing to others. Okay, so I think I'm good here. I have my little bit of yellow that I like here. I always love yellow, it's cheery. Then what you're gonna either do is you're gonna put a towel on top of your ironing board. You're gonna need a piece of wax paper, parchment paper, which I have. You're gonna take your design here, and then you need to, because I did designs on both sides, and I actually already ironed on the other side. But what you're gonna wanna do is kind of get that wax paper or that parchment paper so that you can put it in the middle and your designs do not bleed through. So when it's a little rolly like this, it's a little tricky, but I'm gonna go ahead and slide it in there. One of the other things you can do is you can take your crayons, and I did this on the other side. You'll see how that looks in a minute. But you can take your crayons and kind of scrape them, use some little bits like this. I cut it kind of like that. You can see it bled through here, but you know, just to kind of get some sprinkles of color. Keep in mind that even the tiniest bits are going to spread, and you'll see that in a minute. So I have parchment paper underneath. I have some in the middle, and again, it can be parchment paper, wax paper. If you don't have either of those, I would imagine you could do some, perhaps you could do some foil in a pinch, I don't know. Let's see how my iron is. It's still pretty warm. Your iron does not need to be very warm at all. As you can see, this is an everyday object that probably needs to be replaced, but it's such a good iron, and it was so expensive when I bought it that I have never replaced it. So again, remember 3 layers of wax paper, whatever you've got. Let me see how that's looking underneath, if it is melting. Yeah, looks like it. It doesn't take much for it to melt. Let's take a look at my other side. Pretty, still a little bit warm and sticky. So here we go. This time around, I did a sample project before, which accidentally got put out with some other stuff. And so this time I used some chunkier pieces to see what would happen. So you really want to make sure you use some small bits, and you can even see some of that just kind of bled through over here. There's some little pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and take my jar, set this over on the side. Keep in mind that iron needs to be low. It doesn't need to be high at all. You can take any candle, you're going to put it right inside there. This is a great way to add to the beauty. Think about how fun this would be if you were getting ready for dinner. And I'm going to do one more thing in a minute. So I'm going to let you see how this looks. We've got lights. Here we go. And you can see how that lights up. And if it were a little darker, you could see how that kind of shines through. The other thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to take my candle out for this minute. And I'm going to cut this top a little bit. I'm going to fold it back, fold it over. And just, if you had a pair of scissors that were like some of your mom's crafting scissors that had a fun edge, that'd be kind of nice. So I'm going to just kind of add a little bit of an edge like this. And so I'm going to get a little bit of an edge like that. And then I'm actually going to fold it like this. And if you had a hole puncher, you could do that like that, but I'm just going to cut out a couple of little diamonds along the way that are going to help some more light to shine through. There we go. You can see I'm not adding to the beauty right about now as I'm just cutting these pieces of paper going everywhere. I'm adding a little bit to the mess. So you can see how that looks. I'm going to go ahead and do it on the other side. I actually think it would look kind of cute if you just did it on one side and went for that asymmetrical look, but I'm going to keep mine a little bit more symmetrical here and kind of make them in the same area. These would look really nice outside on your porch at night if you guys are sitting outside and having a fire or Having a late dinner outside looks pretty on your dining room table in the evening. I am a total candle person. Like, I love them. So having all these stores closed and everything different when I can't go and get new candles from Bath & Body Works is kind of a bummer for me. But this, you can see, is going to look fantastic for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and stick my candle right back in there. Put some of this stuff over. You want to go ahead. So you can do it like that. If you have a larger candle, a little more light, you might be able to see more that way. Okay, but whatever way you decide to do it, I hope that it reminds you that taking everyday grungy kinds of things can make something beautiful. And I want to encourage you to continue to add to the beauty, whether it's with your words, whether it's with your attitudes, the things that you do. You can add beauty and joy to the world around you. Thanks, you guys. Have a great day. And next week, we're going to kind of hone in on a new artistic movement called the Romantic Movement. And they kind of simultaneous with realism, but I think you're going to like the project. So post your photos so we can see how your things look. Oh, I don't know if I showed you. Here's what it looks like on the other side as well. So you can see how that orange looks really pretty. All right, have a great day.